And we're going to start off with the state's motion in limine. And so this one's going to be a state of Idaho document. This comes from the state of Idaho. Respectfully moves this court for a pretrial order regarding admissibility of demonstrative exhibits. State will seek to introduce a three-dimensional model of the 1122 King residence for demonstrative purposes to aid witnesses in their testimony. And so this is basically referencing how the state is going to build, as I said, a model of the home. I know there was a lot of controversy that went on about how and why the house was destroyed. Now, I, for one, wasn't a fan of it. I didn't think that it should have happened. I would have liked to have seen it stay until trial, just for whatever reason, in case, or, you never know, right? It's like better to have it and not need it than need it and not have it, so to speak. We've seen pictures. I've seen some pictures of certain parts of inside of the house that have been put out there. Some may have been sent to me. And what you notice, there was some video where they were demolishing the house and they took out one of the exterior walls. You notice that in the inside of the house, a lot of it was also removed, and that was with good purpose. They were looking for DNA and evidence all across that place. And so the stairs were taken out. So if somebody wanted to go into that house and try to walk and see what it felt like, or see what it was, to retrace the steps of the killer, it was impossible to do, even if they kept the house there. The stairs weren't there. Majority of the walls weren't there, especially in the victim's rooms. You can see in Maddie's room, there was several pieces of the drywall that was taken out of that room as well. So there, when you break it down and you look at it in its totality, it just didn't. There was a lot of chemicals. There was a lot of things that were missing. It was probably unsafe to have people going in and out of there, and I think that's probably the main reason why they ended up tearing it down. It wasn't going to be usable. And, like I said, for good measures, they were going to end up having to, they were going to have to end up taking everything out. There was nowhere to go and walk in there. And also, guys, at this point, I'd like to encourage everybody to share the live and invite more friends. So the primary purpose of this model, and this is what the argument says, is to aid the jury in having a better understanding of the layouts of the residence, which is unconventional, and to illustrate where certain events occurred within the residence. This model will aid certain witnesses. Now, I think also what this model is going to do is it's going to help aid that we know that one of the arguments from the defense's side is going to be that there were potentially other people that were involved in this case. They're going to look at the DNA blood samples that were found in a glove outside and on a handrail off of the first floor staircase. And this model is going to be important to show you where that blood spot was, that speck of blood that they found on the handrail on the first floor, which I told everybody here. And, I hate repeating myself on this, but I did tell you guys this a couple of weeks ago. Before that information came out, I said that I knew it was going to be on the first floor. And I said, what is the excuse going to be when we find out that DNA sample was on the first floor? And when you break down how police trace this guy's footsteps, right? We know there's latent footprints. We know that there's sounds. We know that there's audio. We know that there's a phone that's involved where somebody's awake, which is Xana, that she's up until 4:12 in the morning. We know that there's a witness awake that hears certain things and sees certain things. And so law enforcement is going to be able to paint a picture of how and what happened. That picture is probably going to sound a lot similar to this. Bryan Kohberger parked into the rear of the residence around 4:06 to 4:07 a.m. approximately, entered through the rear sliding glass door, walked up to the third floor, entered into Maddie's bedroom, where he saw both Maddie and Kaylee laying there. Kaylee laying on the inside of the bed against the wall, Maddie on the outside of the bed towards the room, and that he struck and attacked probably Maddie first, and then Kaylee, who ended up in the corner. From there, Xana heard or may have felt a draft left from the sliding glass door that was left open. Since Dylan stated that she heard what she thought was Kaylee going upstairs with Murphy, I believe that when and while the commission of the first murders were happening, Murphy may have gone down and to Xana's room. Maybe that's what alerted her. Maybe it was the draft, but she ended up coming out and going upstairs, figuring out that somebody was in the home, turning around, going downstairs, saying, I think somebody's here, runs to her bedroom. The perpetrator, who's allegedly Bryan Kohberger, follows her, goes into the bedroom. And then during that time, we find out from the documents that Murphy is barking outside. So Murphy is outside barking, and the perpetrator is inside at the same time, and you can hear the struggle for less than a minute happening at the same time. Then that would make a reasonable person to believe that the sliding glass door in the rear of the house remained open for him to exit and then to also enter back into the home. As far as when police ended up finding him, and we're going to end up hearing something like that. Well, during that entire process, did he ever go down to the first floor? And the answer is no. Now, what do we know happened just recently up until the point of this incident? The night before, the houses on that block had a huge party. Over 150 people were going in and out of each individual house. It doesn't necessarily mean that at one point 150 people were inside the 1122 King Road residence. What it means is that throughout the entire night, 150 people passed through there. And so you're going to find a bunch of things inside the house, a bunch of DNA. And we know it wasn't very well cleaned because what do we know the night of the incident? Everybody in that house was gone until about 2 a.m. That's when about everybody returned home. And we see pictures of what looks like a party inside of the house, or the reminiscence of a party. You have a beer pong table, you have a bunch of beer bottles and food and other items throughout the entirety of the home. So we know that they didn't clean up that house. Let me rephrase that. We know that they didn't do an extensive cleaning of the house. And so we do have to go into this crime scene knowing that there's a crap ton of DNA all over the place that may have gotten there before the actual crime was committed. That's why they're looking so hard at the knife sheath. The reason they look so hard at the knife sheath is because that item was not part of the party and was brought in by the murderer. So put it all together, that's the main reason why they're looking at the knife sheath. And this is why they're looking at utilizing this. I would assume, and you guys can probably let me know in the comment section as well, that maybe some sort of knowledge of the interior of the home, which would speculate to somebody either watching or doing their due diligence of planning this ahead of time. And the defense is going to say there's no evidence of stalking, this, that, and the third. But when you bring out the model and you say, hey, look, he went directly here, went here, and then left through here, never went downstairs, never did this, didn't check that door, it seems like it's a targeted event, which is another reason why they probably said it was a targeted event, because you have a individual who was between two scenes, right? And that was Dylan's bedroom. You would have had to have passed Dylan's bedroom to have gotten to both Maddie and to Xana's room multiple times, and to have left. And so I think that's one of the reasons maybe why they had said early on that it was targeted.